I don't want to be strong like man who look pretty. I want to be strong like bitch that fights bears in the forest. Alana Sparrow joining us today, live in the lab, to talk personal branding.
Hi, I'm Keith Bilous, and this is Live in the Lab.
All right. A little bit of weirdness in front of the camera there for anybody who's watching. So I'm like, hey, where's the button? Where's the button? I can't get it going.
How did you go viral on TikTok? You were on America's Got Talent. How much did you get paid to be on AGT? Oh, you didn't get paid. Keith and Steve here in Live in the Lab.
You're a great interviewer. I love it.
48 miles, 48 hours. And not just once. You ain't seen nothing yet. I hit 50 last time, and I'm like, yeah, things are a little different than they were 10 years ago. So trust me, things are to keep. You have no time for the BS that much of society seems to put on the table. Why is that? Like, what you're talking about is real right now. There's just no bullshit here, but it's just real. We brought you in with some Marley. I said, Joseph, let's talk music for a second. You said, well, Keith, oldies, 60s, 70s, and 80s. I've never talked to a sir before. Why are you a sir? In many ways, we're the same story. I came from nothing. You came from nothing. I think the old saying goes that if you want a trophy, you climb Everest. If you want respect, you climb K2. I've built an AI myself, and it's pretty fascinating when you can have a conversation with yourself with your own knowledge. Have you done that before? Why are we rushing to make these tools if all they're going to do is hurt humanity? Does the world need an Oppenheimer moment with AI?
What a fun show.
What's going on, nation? I'm having some problems with the buttons again. Hey, you got Keith Bilous sitting here live in the lab. I think I got the show opener. I played it again yesterday. I love the tunes. Hey, Alana Sparrow's joining us today live in the lab. She brought a tree with her. Yeah, you'll see it behind her. She's in Florida. She looked for the one tree. She put it behind us like, hey, I got the tree for the backdrop today. So that's what's going to bring us in the lab today, entertaining and informing you about building that personal brand. I'll tell you something. I'm going to give you guys a hook. The resume is dead. It's done. It's out the window. It is fucking done. Who uses a resume these days? I know who uses a resume. ChatGPT. It's true. Yeah, you'll type in, you'll create me resume. It's like, okay, what's your name, Keith? Oh, I'm Keith Bilous. Give me some details. And in seconds, it got the resume. And then I flip on over to the old, make my old picture, create an old picture, and next thing you know, I'm all fake. I create a fake human being. How do we know they're real? Doing all that work for you on the side hustle, real person, fake person, side job, side hustle. So I know what the solution is. And I think Alana knows what the solution is too. It's about creating that personal brand. It's that 360 view into who you are. Not just that piece of paper that says, yeah, I'm Keith Bilous. I've done this. This is my accomplishments and hire me. Really? Really? Yeah. That's going to get you far in 2024. Not. So what you need to do is you need to kind of create a complete view of who you are. What do you stand for? What are your values? What are your attributes? We did it here in the lab. I created the Business Athlete Manifesto. It's kind of like the Keith Bilous Book of Values, the Keith Bilous Book of Attributes. It's what I stand for. You know that lead with love stuff? You know that treat the human with kindness? You know the good manners? Always say please, always say thank you. Those simple things, that's the secret, people. The secret is really to have good manners. You want to build a personal brand, just be kind. That's the first step, be kind. The world's kind of lost a lot of the kindness. So today we are going to spend an inordinate amount of time talking about personal branding, the value of personal branding. And don't kid yourself. You don't got a couple of puppies on the line here today. We aren't newbies. Nah, I think Keith and Alana have been around the block a couple times. I'm suspecting so. And if you have any doubt, I would invite you to check out Alana's LinkedIn feed, Business Athlete. She is a fucking business athlete. Yeah. Look at her post today. Speaking of looking at her post today, you want to think methodical and strategic? And if you're going to be a guest on this show, I would invite you to take a page out of Alana's playbook because I watched her this week. She knew she was coming on the show. So what did she do? She created a carousel around personal branding. And what did she do? She released it onto LinkedIn. And what did she do? She put us in it. I said, hey, I like that. So I reshared it on my network. And then my network saw, hey, Alana. And then Alana saw our network. And then today, she posts content about her personal brand being a business athlete. Coincidentally enough, today's the day she's in the Business Athlete Performance Lab. So I'm suspecting there's no coincidence there. And I'm also suspecting that the colors that are part of her appearance today also fit the personal brand. So as you're paying attention to today's show, and if you've been paying attention to me at all in the last number of months, Today will be a great lesson in personal branding from me and from Alana for you. So I invite you to stick around for the hour. Keith and Alana are going to talk personal branding. Before we get into that, one quick thing for you guys to do for me. Hey, listen, I'm always giving you guys good stuff, always giving you hooks, always giving you nuggets, always giving you good content to absorb and to get behind. So I would like something from you. Yeah, give us a rating or review on the old podcast machine. Go to Apple, go to Spotify and say, hey, I like the show, but only give us a 5. If you're not going to give us a 5, we don't want the review. Only reviews that have 5s. It's for sure. It's true. Yeah. Go to the old YouTube channel, Keith in the Lab. That's Keith. That's me. In the Lab, and hit subscribe. And then anytime old Uncle Keith pops into the feed, you'll get notified. You will. It's a true story. And last but not least, I'd love to be in your inbox too, because we are going to be throwing some exciting exclusive stuff like bapl HQ, bapl Academy, all the great things we're working on. Inside.bapl.ai. And if you need help with that goal that if you need help with a goal that you're just struggling to accomplish these days, you wrote it down in January and you're like, fuck, it's done. You wrote that resolution down January 1st and it is out the window. Come knock on my door. I can help you. Ultimate accountability partner here. Shows up every single day. You don't believe me? Check out my feed. All right. So listen, the tune's over. Good timing music, man. We're going to bring Alana Sparrow into the lab and chat a little bit about personal branding.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm excellent. Thanks for joining us today. And where are you joining us today with the one tree?
From Pine Island, Florida.
From Pine Island, Florida?
Yeah.
So I will admit I don't know where Pine Island, Florida is. I'm in Winnipeg, Canada, which I'm sure you don't know where that is either.
Maybe.
Well, you do. You do. Come on.
I don't know if I do. My geography of Canada is not that great.
You know, I had a guest on the show yesterday. No, not a show. I had a guest who interviewed me. No, actually, I had somebody who interviewed me a couple days ago, and she actually just lived down the road from me in Minnesota. And she's like, "So, where are you from, Keith?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Winnipeg, just up the road." She's like, "Oh, I've never heard of that before." Okay, so ask me the next question. Yeah, but I'm just talking just outside her door line, oh, there's Keith around the corner over there. Yeah, but anyways, missed us. So Pine Island, Florida. Paint me a picture. Like middle of Florida, outside of Florida, Panhandle. Where are we at?
Okay, we are off of the right off of Cape Coral, Fort Myers, right out in the Gulf.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
It's the largest island within the state of Florida that's, owned by or part of the state of Florida. And we were the eye of Hurricane Ian in October of 2022.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Yeah.
So you were part of that.
Yes. But we're still here and have one lone tree left to prove it.
One lone tree from her. What hurricane? Hurricane Ina?
Ian.
Oh, Ian. Oh, so that's the Ian tree. There we go. We go.
Yeah.
So now I think I read somewhere recently you moved from New Mexico to New York City, right?
Well, upstate New York.
New York.
Upstate New York.
Mm-hmm. And now you reside in and you work in Florida. Am I correct?
No, I go back and forth. So my business is still based in New York.
Okay.
In the winter, pre-COVID, we used to travel the world.
Okay.
The winter, and then during COVID, the pandemic, we bought a place here so we could still leave New York State in the winter.
Of course.
And so the rest is history.
Why should you be any different?
Yeah, I mean, New York winters are brutal, and I never liked them. And then as I hit 40, then I really started hating them.
Oh, so now we're getting into age already? We're getting into age. We're only 10 minutes into this thing. We're already talking age. I saw how old you were today when I watched your LinkedIn post, and I almost fell off my chair. Then I got back up, read the post again. I fell off. I'm like, oh, nah, she must have great lighting.
I do have good lighting. I'm not gonna lie about that.
With every compliment and fully tongue in cheek, I had somebody say to me a couple weeks back, he's like, "You're 51." Actually, I'm 52 now. I've just got great lighting. Every time I up the lumens, I shave 10 years off.
Exactly. And just drink a glass of water. You can shave 10 years off.
That's what it is too. That is what it is too. So you turn 40 and you're like, "Oh, it's cold here in New York City. We're going to Florida."
No, we're going to Thailand.
Oh. Alana, keep pulling back the curtain. What did you do in Thailand?
Oh, just went all around.
Yeah.
Raves, we did the whole thing. Beach raves, hiking, you name it. We've been to Thailand 5 times. I just kept going back. I love it. We've been all over Southeast Asia. I can't get enough of Southeast Asia.
Oh, that's exceptional. So you keep using we. Can I ask who we is?
We is my husband and business partner.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, husband and business partner.
Yes. We were business partners, owned real estate together before we were married.
Okay. Oh, okay. So we have an hour scheduled today. Coming back for hour 2, Alana Sparrow talking about business partners and husbands and married together and starting off as one as the other.
Yeah.
And role definition, right? We can have a whole hour talking about the defining of roles.
Yeah.
So I had a business partner in my last business, Alana, and it was it was my business partner, not my husband or my wife. And I will tell you, the moment, and I'm being serious right now, the moment that we clearly defined our roles was when the magic happened for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if that's the same situation like in your business / personal life, where there's really a clear cutoff on roles. You're able to take the hats off when the hat goes off and it's okay, we're now husband and wife, or now we're business partners. Is that clearly defined, Alana, or is the box somewhat gray?
It's gray. It's too hard because both livelihoods depend on it. It spills over into so many conversations.
Yes.
I think and whether or not that's like good or bad, I don't really know. Sometimes we have to, really carve that out for each other. And are you there? Because I don't see you.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm just the camera guy. I just play different camera angles to keep it all entertaining for the audience. Because Alana, I said it's entertain and inform. Not inform and bore. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me, where should I look? Because should I look at you? Should I look at my camera?
So you look at the light on your camera.
Okay, I'll look at the light on my camera. Now I'm looking at the light on my camera.
Awesome. So now when you're looking at the light on your camera, it's like you're looking into my eyes right now. You're looking into the audience eyes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure.
Awesome.
It's a little weird to talk to you this way, obviously, because then I'm not seeing your expression, but that's okay.
Yes.
So yeah, the spillover is weird, and we correct each other a lot. Like that, this is not the time. We don't want to talk about that now, but it's hard because we're also really passionate about our business and our work. And so it's also personally just interesting between the two of us. And yeah, so it's hard to divide those lines to where you're not just constantly talking about business.
I bet.
We both love our business and we both love our work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's talk about your business. So we'll segue into business. So you came on my radar on LinkedIn because I observed what a tremendous job you have been doing building a personal brand. Now, I knew nothing about you. I knew nothing about you, but something about the way you were presenting yourself drew me into your storytelling, the way you wrote your words, the way you structured your words, the way you presented yourself. And it encouraged me to want to be more curious about you. I'm like, I got to meet this Alana Sparrow, which made me really more curious about the idea of personal branding and, jumping really full into kind of, the idea that the resume is dead right? And that the personal brand is really of today. So but before we get into that, talk about the business with your husband. What is the business you guys are in?
So we have a creative agency. So full suite creative services, which are brand strategy, branding, design for print and web, photo, video, for business brands. Historically, that's what it's been until a recent pivot. Well, it's not even really a pivot. It's a major addition to our portfolio of services, which is a high focus on building personal brands for high-performing solopreneurs, CEOs to build up their business brands as well as their employer brands.
Interesting. So what you said, was that a new arm to the business over the last couple of years, Lana, or was that a strategic push this year, or what pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, so what pushed us into that direction is during COVID, we lost 60% of our revenue, which came from video, because everything was shut down. And if you can't film and you can't photograph, and we had no idea when it was coming back online, contracts were within a month, 3 weeks, a month, were just severed. Nobody wanted to be held to it with nothing coming down the pike, and they were having to pivot because they had their own financial issues and things that were being dealt with. So that was a huge blow for us. And so we got through that year because of all kinds of support that was coming in from, the state, from the governments, and then monies did switch. So then that following year we limped along, but still not pre-COVID revenue projections by any stretch. And then just as the state, so New York State had us shut down for video production until March of 2022. So 2 solid years.
Wow.
Could not produce. You could do things with masks. Like there was all kinds of rules and regulations, but for us and what we were doing, our clients just weren't producing. They didn't want to make the investment in video because it's very expensive and have to have people in masks and, all of this kind of stuff. So fast forward March 2022, when it reopened, we're getting things back online. Then my mom died suddenly in June of that year. That threw me offline for almost another year. So about January, February of 2023. And so that was just, wow, okay, now where the hell are we? Like the shoe had dropped because things are already slowing. We were barely getting back online. We saw industry partners were just not landing contracts. Everybody's things are just slowing.
Yeah.
So in early January of that year, I started looking at fractional roles because I needed things that to kind of fill in until I could get the business back going, like what we had traditionally seen. But through that process, I found myself like, you're almost in the job market even when you're looking for fractional roles as well.
Yes, of course.
So I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on this platform, and it's like, this is an utter shit show. Just an absolute nightmare out here. And so I started seeing, okay, as I'm looking at these businesses, that there's no employer brand that's present here. And we do employer branding. That's the video content that we make for a lot of our clients. It centers around that. So that was already part of what we were tipping into. And so through that, I pivoted from looking for fractional roles to I'm researching this because I think that this is a thing to mine into. So I applied to over 150 jobs as part of my research to see what is going on out there. What is the experience for the employee and the, from the other side, what is happening? How is the employer brand represented and what does that look like? And essentially that really just through all that research confirmed this is something for us to niche into. So when I turned to LinkedIn, I decided, okay, I'm going to build up my personal brand as my own social proof because this is not something that we had offered previously. So that's what I decided to do. And I ended up realizing too, okay, I'm a little bit clueless how to do that because everything I knew for other social platforms wasn't working. I wasn't getting any traction. So that's when I hired my own coaches, got into a cohort, and fast-tracked that learning curve for me. And I was able to take everything I knew from business branding, apply that to all of these best practices and things to do on LinkedIn. And I grew my personal brand from 800 connections that were mostly regional.
Yeah.
To now in 6 months, I'm at just under 10K.
I see that. So I've been learning from you. I'm going to be fully transparent and say, I've been watching, making tweaks and learning from you. When I watched you make the changes to your featured profiles there, I'm like, oh, I see that she's doing it, and I see that Laura Acosta is doing it, and I see that Frankie Velasquez is doing it. Then I should probably do it because if they're the leaders, then I'm going to follow the leader. And it has been spectacular because it works.
Yeah.
So, and to see it happening, it's been quite a fun journey. But what strikes me about your personal brand, Alana, is how deliberate and how intentional you are with the details, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, I'm a micro detailer. That's the designer in me. That is being formally trained as a designer. That's what my undergrad is in. That's what, grad school is in, and I taught it at higher ed in as a professor for 7 years. So the details, I can't get past the details. I can't overlook the details. And to me, that's what makes great creative work also.
Isn't it though? So I want to, so you're striving for those details again has pushed me for the details. So my greens, my branding, everything I put out has a certain look, feel, touch to it, because I believe that that's what sets the winners apart from the people that want to try to win, right? And I believe it sets those that make it to the gym every single day to those that make it there 6 out of 7 days. You show up every single day clearly because the details are really important to you. Hard to do for many people.
Yes.
Yet you're so intentional. Makeup, shirts, coloring. And I'm being really serious here. I'm not wrong. And I don't think I'm wrong with what I said in my opener today. You're strategic about today's show. Your carousel dropped on Tuesday. Your post today dropped around being a business athlete. It was athletic. I haven't seen that before from you. Like, you were very strategic as a marketer with your appearance today. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. 100%. I'm also, I'm a marketer. That's what I do. So yes, there's timing of things that's important, so that if you're going to put this stuff out there, let it work for each other, and you'll get more momentum. And most people don't understand that, because it goes beyond just posting. There has to be strategy behind it. Otherwise, all the individual efforts are kind of, I don't want to say they're meaningless, but they can be meaningless.
Well, they kind of are though, aren't they, Alana? Because if there is no strategy behind them, you're not going to get the results, really.
No, you won't. And I can't do anything without a strategy. And frankly, a strategy can be 3 steps. A strategy doesn't have to be, 5,000 pages. It can be on a single page, but strategy is everything. I can't do a single thing without strategy.
Yeah. So you apply for 150 jobs. And you
plus
out of that experience, you created a lot of awareness and a lot of learning. Did you get hired for any of those jobs, Alana?
I didn't get hired for any of them, because by the time because I switched very quickly and pivoted to research, and I didn't want to waste people's times.
Yes.
So there was a point where, but I will tell you that out of the 150, that only 6 acknowledged having received my resume. Only 6.
Really?
Only 6.
So let me hang on that for a second. So you apply for 150 plus jobs, and only 6 human beings out of the 150 acknowledged you as a human being.
I don't even know that they were human. It was an email saying that I had, I got it, and I checked my spam and all of that, but only 6 actually acknowledged having received it.
What does that tell you?
It's super broken. It's so broken. It's just broken. There's no other way to describe it. They're relying on tech where they don't have the tech in place, so that their systems are broken, and it's really. It's sad, because each time I applied my old school techniques. I bought the software. I invested in the software to do the research, so that my resume met all of the requirements for the ATS system. So in order to do that, I bought the software that invested in that would grade it before it went out. I customized each and every single resume to match each and every single cover letter if there was an opportunity to do that. Every single application took me an hour. I mean, the time was being invested in it so that I could know for sure. I can't just go out and blast and say the system is broken without having proof, data to back it up, because that's also the researcher coming from marketing me. If you're going to put out that kind of messaging, you can't just have it be anecdotal. And it can't just be this small, cross section of a study. And so, I mean, the time that I put into it was ridiculous. And I applied for, I shouldn't say every single one was an hour. I'm going to contradict myself, because there were several of them that I did the instant reply, where you could kind of upload your content. And within, I don't know how many I saw that within 10, 15 minutes, there would be over 2,000 applications submitted.
Wow.
You can't even review 2,000 applications.
No.
Impossible. It's stupid. It's so stupid.
So this is fascinating to me. So you apply for these 100 and some odd jobs. You get 6, 7 responses.
Yeah.
You're learning a tremendous amount of information from this research, and you're quickly recognizing that the system is broken. And the idea of this, and I'll use my words, this 360 brand, personal brand that is video, audio, attributes, who somebody is, who Alana Sparrow is as a human being, not just a piece of paper with words on it. Again, I'm paraphrasing. That's what's starting to come to you. Am I correct as you're going through this experience and recognizing that that's what a human being wants to hire, Alana, is that full 360 view of you?
Yes, but it's actually beyond me as like wanting to hire me. For me, what this was informing even more was the lack of the representation of the employer brand itself. And so what an employer brand is a business's brand marketing to its future and existing employees. They're two different things. So they have the business brand, which is customer facing. Then you have an employer brand, which is employee facing. And if they're saying and screaming, there's no talent out there, there's, nobody's applying. And then you've got talent saying there's all these jobs, but nobody's hiring. This was becoming as important to me to deliver to the business brands that we want to hire us to improve their employer brand. I have to be able to come to say your presence is negligible, your process is negligible, and that if you want to attract this unicorn talent, you need to improve on your employer brand. You need to be talking about your culture. You need to be doing these things, and you need to make your systems better and this onboarding process better. So it was just as important about that as it was about, okay, if you want to stand out as an employee, you 100% need to polish this up. Because if somebody does come on to your LinkedIn profile, you want to be ready to go so that they're going to be in your DMs and you're not actually having to go through this whole random, spaghetti at a wall application process, because that's truly what it is. You're truly just, it's like throwing the lottery. And there's actually a pretty critical stat out there that a lot of people don't know about. And this is really important for larger, small companies, and which gets pretty big. These you can have hundreds of employees and you're still considered a small business in the market. 95% of all roles are filled through networks. The people knew someone. It's very rare that a hire comes from no other, line that goes into that business through it, whether it's through a person or because they knew a hiring manager or they, had a connection somewhere. That's a stat that, at least in the United States, that's not necessarily a global stat, but in the United States, that is a remarkable number. And so that's why it's really important for your personal brand that you broaden your network as wide as you can if you're looking for work.
Yeah. Alana, is the future of business a house of personal brands? And follow my line of thinking here, where the C-suite is a suite of high-performing brands, like high-performing, like that have audiences, that have influence, that have thought leadership, that are like, is that tomorrow's C-suite leadership team?
Yes, well, it already is for the highest performing brands. It's already out there, and you definitely see it in certain industries, especially in gaming, in software development. You see a lot of that, and granted, these might be younger CEOs and C-suites that are doing this, but 100%, if people want to stay in the game, they're going to need to warm up to this, and they're seeing it. They just haven't figured it out, and unless they look and adjust their social media policies, then they're and not feel threatened by it, because right now they don't have the infrastructure. That's what we're seeing over and over. They truly don't have the infrastructure to support it because their social media policies are so restrictive, because the current business culture, it's pretty arcane in the sense that they want to control everything that goes out. They want to have it wrapped in their business brand marketing. And if you do that, then you don't really have a personal brand. Now you're talking about a constipated business brand that's out there. And yeah, so
it's
I find this topic, quite fascinating these days because it as much, Alana, reaches into demographics, right? So you and I are at a different demographic than perhaps some of the younger listeners and viewers that would be watching this right now that are growing up with this idea of having a personal brand, growing up with social, growing up as an influencer or with an audience, where there is perhaps people in our demographic that aren't moving the needle over there yet. And you're saying you need, if you want to survive, not only do you got to bring those AI skills inside the house, but you gotta polish up who you are as a human being.
Yes, and I think that people are polished. What we just need to be able to see it and see all the sides, and not just see it, hear it. What are your thoughts? What are your ideas? What is your thought leadership? And that's why it's so important for the CEOs and that C-suite level, when you're talking about attracting talent. Not only does it attract the talent, it builds the authority of your organization. So if somebody is contemplating of doing business with you, if somebody is contemplating acquiring you, investing in you, they're investing in the people. That's what they're investing in.
Yes.
And so, business, we do business with people. That's why, like, if you've got your best sales reps out there, or your best project managers, when they go, that's why a lot of times customers go. That's why you sign non-competes. That's why you sign all these things, because you don't want them taking the best talent with them. That just proves the point further that we do business with people, not with the businesses. So
I would love your perspective on what I'm going to say next. I started this daily talk show, we'll call it a daily conversation, a number of months ago. And it quickly opened my eyes, and it quickly opened a number of questions in my head going, why aren't more senior people like myself doing this? Because it reminded me of when I was going to school and the principal spoke to the school every single morning for 5 minutes. What this allows me to do every single day, Alana, is address my audience, address my stakeholders, address my employees, address my future customers, address the world with my narrative. Hang on that for a second. And it makes me wonder why more senior executives don't adopt something like this. I'm not saying you got to sit here for an hour every single day, but what a wonderful way, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 15, a few minutes every single day, get in front of the camera, get in front of the microphone, go address your stakeholders, control your narrative before somebody else does. What's your thought? What's your thought on that, Alana?
My thought is the same as it is about a sale. So if I'm, on a call with, let's just say, I'm pitching an offer, and they decide not to buy into it. 9 times out of 10, it has nothing to do with the offer or my price. It has to do with, I haven't presented the value. And so I think that's so much of what's going on, is they don't understand the value. They don't see the value in it. And unless there's buy-in in the value, you're going to have a really hard time. And so the why that they don't see in the value that's when it starts to get complicated, and it will become very individual in terms of, who the CEO is. That a lot of that can come down to their own personality, their leadership style, that sort of thing. Maybe they're uncomfortable. Maybe they have never had a single social media profile. Maybe they have opinions about it, that sort of thing. So it's a lot more nuanced when you get down to those levels. But the biggest thing that I'm seeing is that they're not seeing the value, and also they feel that they need to control it so much more. There's a huge fear also around social media. That's why when it comes to business brands, that's why they want to control it so much and massage every single message that goes out the door, to the point that they have absolutely no empathy left, no emotion left, no suspense left, no surprise left. It's just, homogeny, blah. And I think that those are, some of the things, but I don't think that there's, one direct answer, other than if I had to say one word, it would be, they don't understand the value.
And I think you're right. I ran a large social media company for many years, behind the scenes, worked with the world's biggest brands, did pretty good with that. Understand all that, understand the homogeneity of the boredom of all of that, which again what strikes me why more CEOs, executives, and some of the guys with the older gray hairs on their face to say, hey, Keith, I see what you're doing there. I see the value in it. Because you talk about controlling a narrative. The best way to control a narrative is to get in front of it and speak before somebody else speaks in front of you. And I understand, as a communicator, as a marketer, as you've been trained, that often we tell our senior folks, don't say nothing. Don't say nothing. We got to control the message. Don't say nothing. But in a world today where Zuck's talking, Elon's talking, and the world's business leaders are talking to you and I as human beings, I'm suspecting the next generation of buyers want to hear from their owner.
No, they already do. That's the thing, is they already do, and you're seeing more and more of a demand for it and a command for it. And another crazy stat is 78% of people will not even apply for a role if they don't have a handle on the culture. So if they go to your website, can't see themselves, they can't read about themselves, they don't understand how they will fit into that culture, they won't even apply. So they already are wanting it. So that's from an employee stand side.
Yes.
And it's even higher on a consumer side, and which is crazy, is that if there's a social media presence by leadership on the consumer side, people are more loyal to that brand. They're more inclined to that brand. That's why, Steve Jobs, 100%, love him or hate him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he 100% understood that. And that's why he was the face of his brand for as long, as long as he, was able or allowed, he was there.
Yes. Well, same with Elon. Love him or hate him, you know what you're going to get. If you're going to work at Tesla or any of his brands, you know what you're getting. And again, like it or not, at least I know what I'm getting if I'm going there.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, it's that brand promise, that kind of goes back to brand strategy. That's one of the things that comes out of a brand strategy is, what is the brand promise? And it has to be delivered at every level. And it really starts at the top, and culture starts at the top. If you have manicky leadership, manicky up at the top, you get it all the way down the food chain. If you've got a leadership that, is a squirrel and looks at every shiny object, that's exactly what you have going all the way down the chain. And, so that was a rant, but
when people are latching onto your offer, when you're knocking on somebody's door saying, hey, I'm Alana, I'm a personal brand expert. What is one of the first questions somebody's asking you? Is it, what does that mean, Alana? Or is it, I need that help because they already know what it means?
They already know what it means. I'm crystal clear in all of my content. I'm crystal clear if you read my about. I'm crystal clear, So if they've consumed enough of my content, they come to the table really clear. But not everybody has consumed all of my content by the time they get to the table. So sometimes there's some education that has to happen. What I have also discovered is that most, including many business owners who've gone pretty deep and have been on the platform for a long time, they don't even know what a brand strategy is. They don't understand, and they have parts that are completely missing and non-existent, which is why they're not gaining traction, which is why they don't have the engagement that they have. There's parts that are missing, and there are 8 very clear steps to developing a brand strategy, and one has to feed into the other. And so many feel that, I need to update my brand, so I need to get a new logo. And it's like, no, that is that's a visual interpretation of a brand. So I can't design a logo. I can't even think about a color palette. I don't really care about any of those things if a brand strategy doesn't exist, because the brand strategy and all of its parts informs that and what that expression is going to be, because it's a delivery of that. And so for a business brand, we a very, very long time ago started personifying them. This is back in the 90s. We started personifying them with archetypes and personalities so that they could be more like people. And I go through this exact same exercise when I do, through personal brand strategy, is we're personifying it so that people can get a handle on what is that? who am I? And what I find so often, because most people come out of a corporate structure, most people don't even know really who they are because they're coming out of a corporate structure. They're coming out of, they've been under somebody else's thumb. They've been hiding behind an older sister. It goes on and on and on. And so when they come, so often going through a personal brand strategy, it's cathartic for most of my people. Most of my clients, they don't even realize how much they've been hiding and how much they've been just kind of in this shadow, if you will. And so that part, I had one woman describe it as like the skies literally cracked wide open when she went through that exercise. And to me, that's what drives this. That's what gets me excited every day, is for people to get that excited and to see, because that's the thing that's sustainable. And that's the part that gets really exciting about and fun about having a personal brand and really understanding what your personal brand is and being able to live it and breathe it every day, because it can so clearly drive your why. And when you get to the heart of your why you're doing it, man, it just like opens up and it's so exciting.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's magical when people notice your why, right?
Yeah.
And it's magical when people notice, oh, that's who Keith is, or that's who Alana is, or that's who John is, right? And then the likes start coming, the comments start coming. Because I'll share with you my journey back onto LinkedIn. I left social media back in 8 years ago. I was going through personal stuff, going through divorce. I built a social media company, was fucking with my head and my kids' head, so I just went and became a ghost. I left all platforms and I went down to zero everywhere. So imagine my surprise coming back to the world trying to start a business again. Well, you're starting from zero. It's a process. Mm-hmm. I quickly recognized on the old LinkedIn platform, the more personal, vulnerable, and authentic I was as me, the more engagement people would have with me. And man, did that take me falling on my face a number of times to figure out that I just have to be me. And I know it's hard to people to say, what does it mean just to be me? Well, just find a way to share yourself with your words, with the way you portray yourself, and people will react. Is it as simple as that, Alana?
It is. And, I did this post one time, I had a whole carousel around it, that one of the things that sometimes like just being yourself means is letting people know that you're going to show up and say, bug.
Yeah.
In a meeting.
Yes.
And, so there's a reason why I include curse words in my writing. It's that it's showing those bits of myself, and not to say like I just cuss all the time, which, I might, if you know me really well, and I'm not dropping all the time. But the thing is, I can be salty and I have a cheeky sense of humor, and it's part of what I bring to the table. It's part of what keeps me not so stressed all the time. It's what gets me through challenging projects and things like that. And that's just it's part of just who I am. And I want to be able to show up and be me. And most importantly, what I discovered a long time ago, when I was my most authentic self, my clients were too. And that's when we could get in and do the work and get through the hard crap together. Because when you're doing branding and you're doing marketing and you're getting all that stuff out there, it's hard. And sometimes you're having to, solve difficult challenges and problems. But if you're on guard all the time, then you're not able to be yourself and get in and do, the hard work.
It's true. It's true. Well, and it's, if you're real with your audience will be real back. You're going to have that authentic connection. And like you said, shit's going to get done. Right? Instead of kind of playing around the cursory of dancing around. I don't want to offend Alana. I don't know if I should say this. I don't know if I should say that. Here's who I am. Here's what I put out there. And here's how it works. Do you sometimes find, Alana, jumping into LinkedIn in 2024 sometimes looks like Facebook circa 2007? And what I mean by that is that some of the posts, some would say are cringeworthy. Some would say that, that doesn't belong on LinkedIn. Now, my response is, no, it does, because real human beings are on LinkedIn.
Well, this is where it gets cringy. Okay, so for one, LinkedIn, and when you're telling your personal story, when you're talking about your personal brand, because on LinkedIn, it is a business platform. That's why everybody's there. It is a networking platform, first and foremost. It is not a personal diary. And where other platforms can serve in that way, you can use them in that way because they don't really have a framework around them. They were built that way. LinkedIn, however, was 100% not built that way. And they've 100% said, no, it continues to be a business-based platform. So when you bring your personal story into it, which is so important in building a personal brand or any form of storytelling, whether it's around the business, is that when it becomes cringy is when it's too raw in the moment. You haven't made it relevant for the reader. There's no takeaway for me to learn from. So let's just say I've gone through this divorce. My husband just left me last night. If I come on, I'm like, oh, that, and like he did this again. Whose benefit is that for? All you're doing is blasting, and you've just shown up and just screamed into my feed and got my attention and gave me this giant emotional charge with literally no payoff. I get no reward for having heard that. So what a good story does is it connects with empathy. It brings me some element of surprise, and then it rewards me at the end for having listened to it. So that's what makes for good personal storytelling everywhere, but especially on LinkedIn. So if I tell a personal story, you 100% get a payoff in the end. You get something for you, some beneficial takeaway that you can apply to yourself, or you can be seen, you can identify yourself in the end, but it also needs to end with some level of positivity. And so if you can't check off those boxes, then it's not quite right. And that's like kind of the good litmus for it, that there has to be a point to it. And I think a lot of people, they know that they need to tell their personal story, but they've missed those check boxes. And that's why it feels cringy. Otherwise, it won't feel cringy if you check those boxes.
Because there is a way to tell that story about the divorce, isn't there, Alana? There is a way to connect with me as the reader, to want to be empathetic to Alana's situation of her personal brand, being a divorced human, and she's going through a tough time. There is a way to articulate that story, isn't there?
100%. And what I have found is it's usually not in the moment. You need to, so you have those really bad raw things, right? We all have them, but it's best to learn the lessons from them first, and also learn multiple lessons. I find the further away you are from it, they're less emotionally charged, and it's not so much about you, because when you're telling your personal story, it's not about you. It's about how it benefits the other. That's one of the most important things when it comes to your personal brand to understand, because again, this isn't your personal journal diary. You can have those where you're just shouting out into the void, but then part of why that's not great in building a brand is that it doesn't move forward, because you haven't brought people into the story and made them part of the story. And so the thing that I teach around personal storytelling, personal brand storytelling, is that your personal story isn't about you. It's about the other, and bringing the other into the story and how it ultimately benefits them and is meaningful to them.
Is that the biggest mistake people think about when they think about personal branding, Alana? Because I think that when humans hear personal branding, it's about me. It's about creating my resume in a different way. I'm using those in air quotes to somebody listening right now, but that's really not what it means, does it, Alana?
No, it's not what it means. It means this is what I bring to the table for you. That's what it means. And this is all my stuff, and this is all my greatness, and this is all my personality, and this is how it benefits you. Not about look at me. That's not what it's about. Yeah, it's the other.
Which is where people get it asked backwards and wrong, right?
Yeah, and that's also what intimidates them, because I often hear, well, I don't want to draw so much attention to myself. I'm like, well, right. I get that, but that's not what we're doing, and that's not what it's really about. So you could just put that aside, and that once people have that kind of paradigm shift in that, then they start to really embrace and get it and get more comfortable with it. And in terms of telling their story, or even like I said, bringing attention, whether it's to their profile or themselves or their stories or what they have to say.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Alana, we're coming up on our hour already, believe it or not.
Wow.
I know. And I have a question from the audience. And the question from John is it was actually this one here. It was, ask Alana how she came to innovate the sideways thought balloons on her static images. I love them.
Oh, that's a great story, actually. So my husband is not on any social media, never has been, not a single time, ever. And at times he's allowed me to show his face. It's not like his face has never been there, but he really doesn't like it. And on my Instagram, which I have a pretty large following, he started liking it less and less. And so then we kind of got to a point where it was really funny. We were out having dinner somewhere, and I said, "Hey, is it all right if I take our photo?" And he said, "Yeah, but just don't post it." And so I said, "Okay." And then I blurred his face out. And I made this like kind of little meme out of it that just said, I put the chat, I put the conversation, and then the whole thing was like, I love me a good workaround. So that's where the chat bubbles came in, and they always came in when I was posting a photo of us where I blurred him out, and then there was kind of some sort of comment around it. And because they were part of that brand that I had over there, I brought him over into my LinkedIn profile. They also became a really great way for me to have a third hook and a way to bring a cheeky sense of humor into, so it's like another level of storytelling, of visual storytelling that's going on, that's coming from me, and not just me showing you photos of me. So I tend to use them strictly on myself, and then I use them on my AI characters that I make, my little animal AI characters that I make.
Very much like an Easter egg, isn't it? And so people who know you or know the story, they feel special knowing those little things, right? Like when John asks, if John has heard the story before, he's maybe it's our audience feels special when we know things about our storytellers. Right. Yes. And when they can see things in the imagery and like, oh, I know the purpose of that imagery, it makes them feel special.
Yeah, it does. And I have another one that people love and ask about a lot is I refer to Jeff a lot.
Okay. Who's Jeff?
Well, Jeff he's an archetype that I kind of poke fun of, where Jeff doesn't get it. Like, he's the guy that doesn't get it. And so he's the one that, I'll call out and be like, God, Jeff, like, no, you can't do that, Jeff. And what's funny is Jeff is the name of one of my best friends who I just love to annoy. And so that's where the name Jeff came from.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One last question before we wrap up, Alana. You mentioned your husband has nothing to do and wants nothing to do with social, yet you guys are in the personal branding industry. Yeah. That probably, I'm going to think, is a benefit, because he can sit down with somebody across the table who relates to your husband, and he says, okay, I see you don't, what's your husband's name?
Jesse.
Okay, Jesse, I see you don't engage in social. So now you can teach me how to be like you, have a successful business, but not being like you. My comment making sense?
Yeah, but not really quite, because, well, you make sense, but that's not really his role. His role, he's our head DP videographer, and he does question and interview, but in terms of strategy and building out personal brands, he can only be there sympathetically. Right. But what he will do is he will back up the value, and he's 100% thankful that I'm willing to put myself forward. And he's even brought the question forward of, like, why do you do that? They're asking the why of putting it forward and exposing so much of your personal life, and why is that important to do that? And the question that I've answered to him, and what I answer forward to my clients, is that we invest in the things that we care about. That's what we put our time and energy into. And when you invest in someone, you care for them, you rally for them, you cheer for them. If you know, and the only way to invest in someone is to understand where they're coming from.
Mhm.
And it's really, you know, if they're just kind of like a flat 2D face and you don't know their story, you don't really understand, you don't know, like, are they even real? Are they, you know, AI generated? Are they a bot? Are they this, you know, crappy spammer that's, you know, on the other side trying to grab my identity? You know, we need to understand that we're talking to real people. And the more that you put yourself out there, the more people do start to feel like they know you and they care if things don't work out for you. And I mean, I can't even tell you how many messages show up for me in my DMs every day, all day long, saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for, you know, putting out what you put out. Thank you for investing in me. Thank you for cheerleading for me. It helps me be seen. It helps me be heard. And it's unbelievable that, you know, I have this huge community here and over on Instagram. It's really weird that I feel like I have this giant global family in this very, very strange way that it can be overwhelming at times, like emotionally, like really overwhelming because it's crazy.
I bet. Well, I think this is a good opportunity for me to also personally thank you.
Oh,
You have been an inspiration for me. I have been learning every single day from you and a number of people on LinkedIn. I pay attention. I'm trying to build my personal brand as I've come back out into the world to help people. I'm trying to do things a little differently, and you do things differently. You do, and I notice it. And that has been an inspiration for me. So I thank you as well. I thank you for teaching me a lot in the last hour. I've learned a lot in the last hour. Trust me. I know our audience has learned a lot in the last hour. And I guess really the thing that stands out for me out of the whole hour, Alana, is that, you know, building your personal brand, as much as it is about you, it's really about everybody else, right? And that's the key takeaway, right? It's about them, not you. Even though it's you, it's really about them. Give them stuff that they can hang on to about you that's of value.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it can still serve you, because for me, building a personal brand goes far beyond revenue. Revenue is important. It's a major driver why I'm here.
Yes.
But for me personally, it checks a lot of boxes. Teaching for me, when I help someone build out their personal brand, I'm teaching them something. That's incredibly important to me.
Yes.
I want to lead discourse and conversations around these things. That's important to me. So it can feed your soul too. And that's something that nobody gets to take away from you. You get to take it wherever you go.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't leave behind an employer, you know, with an employer, or, you know, it goes with you everywhere. And that's an investment in you. So yeah, anyway.
So I'm glad you got the last word around revenue. So we want to help Alana and Jesse. We want to help their business with revenue. How can our audience find you, find the business, find Alana Sparrow on LinkedIn, find the business? Here's your chance now to get on the old platform and say, hey,
yeah.
come on.
All right, you can go to my LinkedIn profile. You can follow me on Instagram at Alana Sparrow, and you can go to my website, alanasparrow.com. Will also direct you over to my business website, which is the Foundry for Art, Design, and Culture. But those are the fastest, easiest ways to find me.
Awesome. Alana Sparrow, thank you for joining me today here in the lab. Will you come back again to continue the conversation?
Oh, I would be honored and would absolutely welcome it.
That's awesome.
Thank you for having me. This has been tremendous. I've really enjoyed it.
Me too. And you know what I would love to do? It's funny. I ask this question to my guests all the time. I'm waiting for a guest to say, fuck no, Keith, I'm not coming back. I hated the experience. Oh, okay, then. I'll see you next time.
That would be weird.
It would be kind of fun, though, because it's real and authentic. And that's what I'm inviting here on the show, which is if you didn't have fun, then tell me. I want to know you didn't have fun so we can do something differently, right? So
you'd have to screw up a lot more before you think you get that answer.
Alana, you have been awesome. I'm going to put you back in the green room. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience, and I'm going to come walk you back out, okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Hang tight 1 sec. All right, so there we go. Alana Sparrow joining us, and I gotta bring the music back because the fucking music's awesome today. You guys, this has been the best show. I'm sorry to my another couple hundred previous guests. You guys were all just a setup for Alana Sparrow. Y'all saw the activity today. We had lots of questions. We had comments. We had John Cook talking. We had Ram talking. We had Keith Bilous. Wait, that's me. We had Keith Bilous talking. We had Trish Edwards talking. Oh my goodness, we had a lot of people on the show today. So thank you all for joining today. I appreciated your energy. I apprecited everything you all had to kind of contribute to the conversation. I hope you enjoyed the chat with Alana today. She taught me a lot. She is absolutely my source of inspiration. I didn't get to say it's Alana on the air, but she's my source of inspiration because I got to look up to somebody on my license that has a different number on their license than me. So I can look to Alana's license. It has maybe a little more different numbers than my numbers. So I can look up to somebody. So I look up to Alana. Joke, nudge, Alana. Anyways, see you guys tomorrow. Myself and Di Manuel are bringing AJ Zeglin in tomorrow for two dads in a lab trying to be 2% better. We're talking parenting autism. AJ's got an autistic daughter. We're going to have a conversation about that tomorrow, live in the lab, 12 Central, noon. That's what time it is. 1 Eastern, 10 Pacific time. We go 7 days a week. And then next week, myself and Nicole Bernard, we are going to go live in the mornings with Keith and Nicole here on LinkedIn, X, YouTube. We're going to start a daily conversation. So hopefully you guys want to join that conversation with us. We're going to talk news, what's going on, current events, conversations happening on the platforms, and hopefully try to bring a good conversation, drive some accountability, and drive some inspiration. We'll see you guys tomorrow.